explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Yes, hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Altered State. We're gonna kick off with some cool shit, huh?
Absolutely, yes. Looking forward to it. I also have some maybe not so cool shit, strange shit. Did you know that Eric Swalwell was a not particularly good poet?
No, I did not know this, but I'm certainly not surprised.
You know, poetry is one of those fine lines. It's either brilliant or it's so cringe-inducing you never want to read anything from the person ever again. Rarely I find anything that like straddles the line.
Yeah, definitely polarized on both ends.
Yeah, and you know pretty much right away. You know, it like induces that feeling inside of you, like, you know, you're just like, oh God, someone published this. Like, why would you want someone to read this? A lot of it is like that, I think.
Do we have any examples? Is this old poetry?
Oh yeah, there's definitely examples of Eric Swalwell's poetry that it's socially charged, shall we say. Hang on, let me get this pulled up. So this is actually, I guess that he published this when he was a student in 1999 at Campbell University in North Carolina. He also was a published author in the school paper, and he published an article called U.S. Political Prisoners, A Cry for Justice. And his byline, he goes as Eric Swalwell, the radically poetic. The radically poetic. And and the article, he goes through and he makes this case for, you know, these social causes of getting these people out of prison. And he ends by saying, America, it's time to wake up. Free Peltier, free Abu Jamal, free all political prisoners. Well, Leonard Peltier murdered FBI agents. Yeah.
Big deal.
Abu Jamal, I'm pretty sure that's another case of him, somebody murdering people. Here, actually, I can't share my screen, or you'll have to share this. But Muffin, this is not happening. You're gonna have to be a good girl and just wait. All right, so share that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so what does he say? Without any evidence and manufactured affidavits, the FBI handpicked an anti-Native American judge and pinned the murders on Leonard Peltier. However, according to AIM officials, and I believe AIM is an organization that, you know, was stumping for Peltier. And
I think it was a messenger, right?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. But a judge ruled that the case against Peltier had been riddled with FBI misconduct, coercion of witnesses, perjury, fabrication, and suppression of evidence that would have freed Peltier. Court records even addressed the FBI's mishandling of clear abuse of the investigative process. I'm Mumia Abu Jamal. He's a political prisoner on death row whose murder conviction. His case is unique because he's a potential suspect years before he was ever accused of committing a crime. The FBI has already assembled a 500-page file on him by the time he was 15 for his involvement in the Black Panthers. As for his trial, witnesses who stated Abu Jamal was not the killer were barred from testifying. Also, questions regarding the weapon used and validity of testimonies were never addressed. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, maybe people haven't been railroaded and had cases filed against them and maybe the cops lied. I've looked at the Leonard Peltier stuff before. I think he actually did. I mean, he got to do a shootout with FBI. It was on a reservation. You know, maybe there were some mitigating circumstances, but I don't know anything about Mumia Abu Jamal. I've just heard his name bandied around a couple of times. But look at Eric's picture. That doesn't look like Eric Swalwell to me.
It doesn't. You're right.
No, he looks like a wrestler or something right there.
Yeah.
Like he's much thicker. But in terms of his poetry, let me see.
Oh, that wasn't it?
No, that was just an example of his writing at the time. But oh gosh, I guess maybe I saw another piece of him writing poetry. Let me just do a quick search here for Swalwell poetry.
I was gonna say my number one gripe on it is that it doesn't rhyme.
Okay. Did I spell Swalwell wrong? Is there only one L?
Swalwell.
Let me try it again.
One L and then two L's.
Okay. All right. I adjusted. Nothing found. What? Come on, man. I just saw this like yesterday. It was really.
He's probably panic erasing it. It's funny because there's so many things, you'll pull up and it's just embarrassing or stuff. And then I think I'm like, man, how many things was I writing and doing in the 90s that I thought were so clever that I'd probably die of cringe. I saw today.
I think about that quite often, to be honest with you. I actually was a published poet in high school, and it's nice. Fairly cringe inducing. But we had like there was like some official organization for like high school poets. And I was like, well, this is an easy thing. I can smoke weed and hang out with my friends and we'll write stuff and maybe people will think it's brilliant. And they did. They published it. I couldn't believe it. I got the book and everything.
That's cool. That's real cool.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. But I was really into like Edgar Allan Poe. Okay. And I think Poe is brilliant, atmospheric, creepy, well-written. Really invokes a lot of emotion, and so I was trying to like evoke Edgar Allan Poe in whatever it was that I wrote, and I couldn't recite it, so nobody asked me to recite it, or maybe people wouldn't even care. But I think it's only fair to put it out there because I'm making fun of Eric Swalwell.
I love it. I think it'd probably be more well received. I mean, Poe is awesome if you're evoking that, and then we know you're also awesome. So,
cool. Thank you very much. I do, however, align with what you were saying about like all the cringe-inducing stuff. Like I definitely, think back upon my life, like the last 30 years, and sometimes I'm laying there and I'm going to sleep at night. And then something will cross my mind and I'll be like, oh God, what a mistake. Like, why did I say that? Or like, why did I do that? Oh my God, I hope they forgot, or like, because I don't drink for a reason, like I used to love drinking. And it was just like, bad things would happen when I was drunk. And of course, when you're drunk and you're acting stupid, you think it's hilarious. Except everybody else doesn't think it's hilarious. Everybody else is like, this guy is a piece of shit. Why would he stop?
Why is no one laughing?
Yeah.
I've been there, man.
Yeah. So I'm very, very grateful that I don't drink anymore.
Yeah. Hey, ripping on someone, you think it's funny, and then you're just being a dick.
Oh no, then you turn around and like their brother is right behind you, or like maybe they're right behind you. You're like, oh, is that what you think? Is that what you think, Paine?
Yeah. I've had my share of drunken moments that it's funny that the weed and alcohol used to counterbalance my life, where I'd get drunk and I'd either write something online or I'd say something, and then you'd smoke weed and then be like, oh my God, I got to erase that. The complete polar opposites.
Yeah. Okay. So we did have a truly awesome thing to talk about. That was the total non sequitur with Eric Swalwell being a poet. But we do have a couple of things like that tonight, but I just wanted to make sure that we had some people in the chat. If you guys haven't yet, do me a favor, hit the like button. That totally helps. We really appreciate it. Because you may want to be present for this next story. What's up, Brad Fry? Good to see you out there, Captain. All right, so a lot of people have been waiting for this second administration to kind of hit the stride, right? You know what I mean? Like a lot of talk. Things are being lined up, it seems. It's like you're at the bowling alley, you've got the ball in hand, you're standing at the line, and you're waiting for the machine to set the pins. All right. And if you got everything lined up on that shot, all right, either you get a strike and you beat your buddy, or maybe you're on a date, you're trying to impress a girl or something, or maybe somebody that you don't like has got a slightly better score than you, or maybe you were just talking a bunch of shit because you were drinking and you've been sucking the whole night, and in your mind you're like, oh, God, I just want to give me one strike, God, please, I mean, like let me knock this one out, please. And I remember this one time we were bowling and this guy was talking mad shit, okay, about like what a pro bowler he was and how he's on a league, and he probably had drank a whole pitcher of beer before we got up there and started bowling. I don't even think I knew this guy. He was just like at the bowling alley and he was talking shit to everybody. We were a bunch of kids, and he was so serious, and he was like practicing his form all night, and he got up there and he got to the line and he's like, what's that movie with Bill Murray and Woody Harrelson about bowling?
Yeah. Kingpin, maybe?
Kingpin.
Yeah.
It was like
done that a million years.
He was so serious, and he was talking so much smack about how he was going to literally wipe the lanes with us. And he got up there and boom, straight into the gutter. And I don't think he hit a single pin all night. He was so wasted. But he looked so serious about it every single time. And he was like, I'm telling us what a wonderful bowler he was, but he just like gutter balled it every single time. And of course we're laughing, like we're not making it any better for this guy. So just imagine, this is the second Trump administration. We've seen the pins getting set up. We're waiting for that first strike. Personally, after a couple of gutter balls with James Comey and Letitia James, the grand jury declining to indict the seditious six, we've still got the most important grand jury that's happening right now down in Florida with U.S. Attorney Jason Quinones, also known as Captain America. This, and if you'll notice, the confirmation of Jason Quinones received zero attention, zero fanfare. I don't even think I saw anything covering his, like, the questions that they asked him during his confirmation hearing. Like, they just let it roll right through.
Most likely by design. That's a good sign.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying. There's all this attention on people, and they're like, oh, they're not going to let this person through, or they're not going to let that person through. And people get focused on it, and they're angry, and like, we need this person. If we don't get this person, then it's over. We're done. We're done, bro. Game over, man. Game over. But then you've got this Florida grand jury. You've got Jason Quinones, and he just immediately rolled into town. And he was like, guess what, guys? We're gonna have a grand jury, and we're gonna ask former CIA Director John Brennan to literally walk into court and show us his ass, and they're not going to be able to do anything about it.
All right? Freaking love it. Should I pull up this post?
Pull it up. Let's see. So Svetlana Lakova, I love her. We follow each other. I've always wanted to interview her, but she's in Russia. She was the one that the Obama administration identified as a Russian link that they could try to pin on the Trump team. She was at an event, like not with General Flynn, but just at an event that General Flynn was at. And they they started a rumor that Lakova and Flynn were having an affair, and that his connection to her was a direct connection to the Kremlin. They ruined her life, okay? Basically, got her kicked out of Western nations. They set her up, and she is pissed. Exactly, Fanny. Exactly. Yeah. And so as a result, she has dedicated her life since that time to exposing the people who not only tried to destroy her life and General Flynn's life and President Trump's life, but these people tried to destroy America. And what they did to her is an excellent example of how little they care about an individual person. Okay. Like your life means nothing to them, Brad, and I will see this sometimes. People will think about scenarios playing out and they will ascribe their own morals and values to what's happening. Like, oh, it doesn't make sense that this would be done, or, why would they do this, or why would they get rid of this guy? We're ants to them. All right. If they've got to kill one random person, they don't care. It's like, taking down a plane, like the assassination of Ron Brown. Okay. Ron Brown, one guy on a plane, took down the whole plane just to kill Ron Brown. And not the only time it's happened.
It's a little Clinton body count for you.
Yes, sir. And obviously highly relevant because they're going to be testifying very soon. So Svetlana is dialed in on this stuff. All right. And the grand jury for John Brennan began in early January. We've already seen a couple of communications from his legal team. They wanted to make sure that the case did not go before Eileen Cannon. Well, guess what? The case is before Eileen Cannon. They wanted to keep a lot of John Brennan's communications out of the hands of the government. Well, they're going to gain access to everything they want because they are the Department of Justice. All right, John Brennan, you're not going to be able to do anything about it. So,
buddy,
Svetlana here is reporting on the fact that the grand jury, this is the grand conspiracy case, which is going to tie in James Comey. It's going to tie in Letitia James. It's going to tie in Fani Willis. It's going to tie in everybody that tried to destroy President Trump. The grand conspiracy to topple a nation, to deprive the citizens of the United States of America of their duly elected president. The grand conspiracy to quite literally ensure the power base of the deep state for generations, if not permanently. So there are numerous reports, she says, that a new set of subpoenas have been issued to John Brennan and to another 24 co-conspirators in the grand conspiracy case. Now, James Comey, he doesn't have an active case right now, but I guarantee you he's being subpoenaed down there in Florida. He does, however, have like 7 powerhouse attorneys that are working for him. You don't just hire 7 lawyers and keep them on retainer, just in case. I mean, like what they were talking about, possible perjury up in the DC area. So James Comey would be among these people, I would have to imagine. But, and this is very important, and this is something I've said numerous times, I'm sure that I said it here on the show with you right now, is that a big aspect of just the psychological game that the administration has played with these people, drawing it out like a cat batting a mouse around, okay? Or, people waiting for the pins to reset. What do they do when the pins are waiting to reset? They talk, okay? People communicate. When you believe that the current administration possibly might know more about your crimes than you would like them to, and you continue to have the process dragged out, the idea that you wouldn't be A, covering your tracks or attempting to cover your tracks, or B, communicating with your co-conspirators is ridiculous. That's exactly what these people have been doing. And she says the co-conspirators are communicating, coordinating, and stirring up trouble. Their ultimate goal is to overthrow the Trump administration because that's the only way they can avoid justice. Hence the sedition videos organized by Jake Sullivan's wife, Maggie Goodlander. Of course, Jake Sullivan, a big force in not only the Joe Biden administration, but he worked for Hillary Clinton. He was in the Obama administration. Obama and Hillary's calling for Soros sponsorship of riots, etc. Also, Elise, what's her name from the Seditious Six? The CIA. Yeah, no, not Stefanik. Alyssa Slotkin. Alyssa Slotkin.
Yes.
Michigan Senator, Seditious Six. While she was at the Munich Security Conference with Hillary Clinton the other day, she said, she's talking about how America is turning into an authoritarian nation and Donald Trump is, engaging in authoritarian behavior, and it's going to continue to get worse until the people revolt. All right. So if she was, in my opinion, she was calling for sedition the first time around. Now she has taken that appeal from the military and the intelligence community straight to the American people. And you take a look at what's happened in the areas
and abroad. I mean, they're in Europe.
Oh, yeah.
They're also appealing to those people, in my opinion. Yeah,
I would have to believe that behind the scenes at the security conference, they were likely having those types of private conversations. Like, we need to plot, because they did it before. I mean, the Spygate, Russiagate. I mean, that was done in conjunction with MI5 and other global intelligence organizations. But she continues, in parallel, they are coordinating their joint response to the potential prosecutions. Their lawyers would have advised them not to meet up openly in the U.S., as it shows the continuation of the conspiracy. Again, every overt act, from the planning to the execution to the continuation of the conspiracy, is what is contained within prosecutable offenses. She says emails, phone calls are disclosable. Plus, they are paranoid about surveillance, given that the Obama admin spied on everyone. So the coup plotters are finding pretexts to meet up, ideally offshore, such as a spot like the Munich Security Conference. Why was Hillary Clinton at the Munich Security Conference? I mean, what relevancy does she have in the world right now?
She's been a nobody for a decade. I mean, like, as far as having any actual say.
No, she's got nothing. So I would imagine that would have been an excellent opportunity for Hillary Clinton to meet up outside of the prying eyes of the United States government. Doesn't mean that our security partners in other parts of the world are not also continuing to feed information to President Trump's administration. But meeting offshore, that's like a Ghislaine Maxwell type move right there. Like heading out into the open waters of the international ocean. But recall Obama and Brennan's trips to London, England, where Russiagate was hatched. Yes, absolutely. Hillary and Alex Soros's trip to Germany. Alex Soros was also at the Munich Security Conference. Jake Sullivan meeting up with other anti-Trump intel community members, and open threats to the Trump administration and its supporters, etc. They are panicking. I cannot wait to see which of these deep state swamp rats have been subpoenaed. Now, the reporting that she's mentioning here, this is AP. All right. So not super widely reported. It just broke this morning, but this is the first place that I saw it, was Svetlana talking about it. But they have issued new subpoenas in the Florida-based investigation into perceived adversaries of Donald Trump and the U.S. government's response to Russian interference. There was no Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. There was deep state, United States bureaucratic interference into the U.S. election.
Yeah, that was their in. They had to find something.
Yes. Yeah. But the initial wave of subpoenas went out in November, asking recipients for documents related to the preparation of that U.S. intelligence community assessment that detailed a sweeping, multi-pronged effort by Moscow to help Trump defeat Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election. It's so hilarious to me that they're still saying that as if it's fact, even though it's been totally debunked at this point.
I talked about this last night. It's like every now and then you run into someone who'll be like, well, Trump is Russia's errand boy or something. You're like, dude, you still don't know?
Oh my God.
Fucking 2026, dude.
It's even more annoying to me when it's somebody who tells me that they're a conservative and then they'll make some retarded comment like that. A couple of years ago, I mean, still during Biden, I had to take my lawnmower to this guy to get it fixed. It's an electric lawnmower. I got it at Home Depot a couple of years ago, and I love it because it works better than a gas lawnmower, and I just hit a button. And anyway,
what I had growing up, I also just don't run over the cord because I've also did that.
It's cordless. It's cordless, so I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, but so I brought it in, and the guy's, he's like, yeah, it's just me and my buddies hanging out here. He lived on this ranch basically, and like all the neighbors came over, they were drinking beers, and he's like, sit down, have a chat with us, and and so we're talking, and they asked me what I did, and I told them, and they're watching Fox or something like that. And he's like, well, Trump did hatch a plan with Russia. And I'm like, no, he didn't. Like, he absolutely did not. And it was just like a series of debunked claims that they were repeating because they heard the characters on television say it over and over and over again. And it's
incredible.
It was kind of eye-opening for me because this was like the clearest slice of like normie, conservative leaning people in my area. Like, these guys were not overly political. They were like, yeah, sure, I voted for Trump, but he worked with Russia.
Yeah, it's what was the Mueller investigation? 30-40 million they spent on?
I think it was 32, 34, something like that.
It's like they debunked it themselves, and they tried to keep it on for as long as possible. Went on for 2 years, and then they literally had to put their tail between their legs and saying, sorry, we spent $30 million to prove that we made this up. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah. Maggie says, did they kick you out for calling him out, Zach? No. They just didn't believe me. Like, I like brought the sauce, and I like really did my best. But they just believed it. Like, it's like a couple of years ago, talking to people on the left who believed that, COVID was a killer and you had to get the jab, and that was the only way. 2 weeks to stop the spread, and then you get the jab, and then you can go back out and everything's a miracle. But you still got to wear a mask, even though you got jabbed, and the arthritis that you've now got that's crippling out of your whole body is not because of the jab, it's because of the COVID itself. And then maybe the COVID gave you cancer too. I don't know. But despite the best evidence to the contrary, my realization was that there are some people who just, you can't reach them. You can't reach them. Now, I don't know anything about Eric Tucker.
Sleep at the wheel. Yep.
Yes, totally asleep at the wheel. I would bet that, Eric Tucker is probably like a terminal TDS patient. Okay.
Yeah.
For him to repeat this well-established, infactual lie that has been repeatedly debunked, he's either got to be totally disingenuous and knows that he's lying, or there's just nothing else that can convince him otherwise. I'm sure that he heard Adam Schiff say numerous times that, when he sat on the Senate Intelligence Committee saying that, we have evidence that Donald Trump worked with the Russians to influence the 2016 election. And he just said it enough without showing any evidence ever. And people believed it. Yeah. And there are some people that, unfortunately, will just continue to believe it. And I'm hoping that seeing people arrested and having these are going to be federal trials. That's the thing that bugs me, is that you don't have any cameras in federal trials. We deserve that. We deserve cameras.
You know what, man? Trump should just do it anyway. We're putting cameras in there. I love that you brought up COVID. COVID was so eye-opening for that. I think the most eye-opening thing to me was that no one called out the Black Lives Matter rallies were happening right on the heels of the lockdown. Mm-hmm. And they were just freaking people shoulder to shoulder doing all this stuff. And then those same people who were supporting that were still wearing their masks and still doing things. It's like, don't you see? They're outing themselves. This isn't real. This isn't like a real thing, that they're allowing you to do this. And then the piece de resistance with that is, I believe it was MSNBC. They came on and tried to tell us that actually helped immunity and that it was actually a good thing. And then that lowered COVID cases. I still have that clip somewhere. I was like, these people are so full of shit. And the ones that can't see it are checked out. They just checked out. It's like, what are you even trying to reach them for?
Or like, those would be the same type of people that you would say, well, Dr. Anthony Fauci told me that, wearing a mask is good. And then you can show them the clip of Dr. Anthony Fauci saying, nah, don't wear a mask. It's not going to, you don't want to do that. That's not going to do anything for you. And they'd be like, oh, well, I don't believe that Dr. Anthony Fauci. I believe the Dr. Anthony Fauci who has confirmed my own bias and the things that I've been told by my television personalities I should be adhering to. But that what I said about somebody with crippling arthritis from COVID, back when I used to be on Twitch after I got banned from YouTube, I actually had like, quite a few people on Twitch, but Twitch was weird because there's a lot of liberals and commies more than anything else on Twitch. And so I would, like, for my call-in shows, I would have, like, there was this guy, Joe the Communist Plumber, who would call into my show frequently. And he was mostly reasonable, but just didn't, agree with anything that I said. He actually, do you remember, who was that guy? Evan, I can't remember his last name. He was a comedian, and he was at an event that we did. I think he was at both of them.
That guy was great. Yeah,
he was cool. He was cool.
Yeah,
but he was on the show.
He wrote Trump's first Al Smith dinner speech. That guy.
Oh, that's great. That is correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, Evan was awesome, but he was on my show, and at the end of the show, Joe the Communist Plumber called in, and he basically started freaking out on Evan, and Evan was like not having it. And I was trying to get Joe to shut up, and I didn't have a savvy enough setup yet to just mute Joe. And I was trying to end his call, and Evan was so pissed he just hung up. And he left. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, that'll probably be the last time he comes on the show. But there was another guy who would frequently call in, and initially he was like, listen, I don't agree with anything you're saying, but like I can tell that you're very passionate about it, and you seem to be bringing facts and backing information, and so just as kind of an exercise in coming together as a country, I like to tune into you, and I like to listen. And occasionally he would call in and he would try to tell me things, and I would refute them. And one time he called in and he was like, another great reason to get the vaccine is because a little known side effect of COVID is that it can give you terrible arthritis. And I was like, what? And it was like, yeah, it can give you terrible arthritis. And I was like, where did you hear that? Because I never heard that before.
Yeah, that's wild.
No. And he was like, well, because it happened to me. I got COVID. And then shortly thereafter, I started getting really terrible arthritis in my hands. And now it's not just in my hands, it's in most of my joints. And so now I have to take steroids all the time and these other medications. And if I don't stay on top of it, and I was like, okay, so didn't you say you got the vaccine? And he was like, yes, I did, but I still got COVID. And I said, let's talk about the order of operations.
Like, say that again slowly, bro.
I said, when did you get COVID in relation to when you took the vaccine? He was like, well, I took the vaccine and then I got COVID. And he was like, but it's okay because it was the kind of COVID that was good because it was from the vaccine. And then because I developed it from the vaccine, I developed the natural immunity, and now I don't have to worry about dying from it. He was like, I still might get COVID, but I just won't die if I get it. And I said, and then, so after you took the vaccine and then you got COVID, then you got crippling arthritis. And he was like, yes. And I said, tell me this. How do you know that the crippling arthritis didn't come from the vaccine? He was like, oh, because it wouldn't, because the vaccine's safe and effective. And I was like, okay, well, that's
no idea. You're guessing. Yeah. I mean, we're all guessing, but still.
So that's what you've been told. But doesn't that seem odd to you? I said, COVID is a common virus that was around for the entirety of mankind's existence. And it has never been known to cause crippling arthritis. That seems very strange. I said, and yet this mRNA vaccine, which never existed in nature, was designed and developed in a laboratory by a man, was injected into your body with all of these unnatural constituents. And you're telling me you won't even consider the possibility that the vaccine gave you arthritis? And he like stopped for a second and he was like, no, definitely not. Damn, and I was like, I don't think I can help you.
Yeah, that's a wall.
Yeah. And what's terrible is that so I only heard from a couple of very select sources early on, after he told me this, they started coming out with articles and saying, you know, another new side effect of the COVID-19 virus is just recently being discovered, crippling arthritis that seems to be, you know, making people's lives very difficult. And I saw it happen a couple of times, and I was like, oh my God, they're trying to astroturf the idea in people's minds that if you get COVID, you're going to get arthritis. And so therefore you better get the vaccine so you don't get COVID, therefore you won't get arthritis. But then so many people who got the vaccine and who maybe never had COVID or any symptoms of COVID-like sicknesses, they started developing crippling arthritis. I know multiple people who that happened to. They went out, they got the jab, and they only got one, but they went and got a jab, and then they developed both at the same time because they got it at the same time. They both developed it on the same schedule. And, you know, since that time, we've figured out the mechanism of action that's happening with that. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a fact. This, you know, it's not from COVID. It's from the vaccine.
Remember all the different articles that were being written, like too much sleep could cause a heart attack. Running causes a heart attack. Eating bacon causes a heart attack. Being up too early causes a heart attack. Being up too late causes a heart attack. It was like
being too excited.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure the chemicals you're injecting into everyone's arms are causing the heart attacks. So
yeah, the chemicals, the laboratory altered DNA and RNA. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. And then, do you remember when Mark Zuckerberg was recorded on that phone call telling his employees at Facebook? He was like, listen, you know, this is a modified RNA vaccine. It's never been in the population before. You have no idea how it's going to rewrite your own RNA. This is something we are not recommending people get. And then he was recorded, and that was released. And then he came out and he was like, you know, what I said was incorrect. This is perfectly safe and effective, and everybody should get it. Because they threatened him.
Oh, yeah, dude. Oh, that was red pill gold, man. If you look back at COVID, it was the ultimate litmus test versus the ultimate red pill versus the ultimate op. I think that was a legitimate pushback weapon that they tried to deploy on everything that Trump and all of us were doing at the time. And I can't be convinced otherwise. But I do think they had it on deck. In fact, I think they were gearing up to eventually release a pandemic and then mess people up with vaccines and the whole nine. Yeah. I just think they forced it out because they were just in panic mode.
I think that I showed you the Trevor what's his name from When His Kids, you know, Trevor what's his name?
Trevor Moore.
Yeah. Moore. I kept wanting to say Morgan. Yeah, the Trevor Moore video where he did a podcast after Jeffrey Epstein died, but before he died
last week. Yeah, we actually showed it live here. And
okay, wow. I wasn't sure if we showed it live or if I showed it to you afterwards, but that was really interesting to me because you put that together with the information that came out from the Epstein files, where, like, you know, people are having conversations about like pandemic preparedness and also, you know, developing stuff in a laboratory. It's totally plausible to me that with his level, his access, and the people he was involved with, Bill Gates, etc., that maybe he might have had something to do with that. You know, I mean, just like, you know, even if it was just indirectly through funding or something like that. But I mean, certainly just the presence of Bill Gates and Event 201 and, you know, his vaccine history. I mean, I'd say we have Trevor Morgan was right.
Yeah, there was totally a link there. And I mean, it makes everything even that much more sinister. And also, too, is you know, just combing through these files, as I'm sure you have been as well. I was running into something the other day that it was an investigation, and it was a deposition from one of the victims that happened in September of 2019. So that's after he died. So that investigation didn't end there. They were still going through it. And then Event 201 happens right then in October. And so I really think, I think they rushed it. I think it could have been a kill switch, or either directly from Epstein or just in general, like, oh, they're starting to bring the world down on our heads. We need to do this. And it was one of the things that stands out to me with the Event 201 is the Clade X first half in 2018, because they hadn't done one since 2006. Those were the third and fourth events that John Hopkins did this, and everyone tried to push like, well, they always do these events.
Well,
yeah, events like that happen.
That lines up with like swine flu, doesn't it?
Well, swine flu, but it was also called Atlantic Storm.
Yeah,
and Hurricane Katrina hit later that year.
There we go.
Those four in a row. The first one was called Dark Winter a couple months before freaking 9/11.
Yeah.
Then in 2006, they had Atlantic Storm. The next one 5 years later, right before Hurricane Katrina. And then nothing for 12 years until Trump gets in office. And they are clearly upset. Like, obviously, they were having epic meltdowns since the second this guy took office. And then they ran Clade X in the spring of 2018, which I think that was the test in the waters. Well, we might have to use this, guys, and sort of thing to get their feet wet. And then the year later, after that, things were really coming down the next year by that point with Epstein and everything. And then they ran that, and that one, though, they were all John Hopkins, Bloomberg School of Health were the first three solo. And then the fourth one is when they were real, is when they brought in the WEF and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for that last one. And then it fucking happened. And it's like for people to try and dismiss that, it shows how willing people are to ignore things because that they don't want to be brought out of their comfort zone. I think that's really what it is. I think people just want to go to work during the week, go to the bar on the weekend, socialize with each other, watch their favorite sports team, wait for their favorite album to come out from their favorite band. And just, they want that life to stay preserved. And we can get back there maybe, but right now, no, it can't. There are major things that are going to have implications for the rest of humanity going on right now. You have to get involved.
Yeah. So I think the reason they didn't have an exercise that entire time was because with Obama in the White House, I mean, he essentially was that they already had somebody at the top of the pyramid, right? There's
nothing to push back on, right?
Yeah. They got an asset in there, and they had, the plan for Hillary to come in afterwards. And obviously, once that didn't work, I think that initially they believed like, okay, Russiagate, Spygate, that's going to take care of it. All right. But Trump is able to, persevere and move past it. Okay. Then they got Ukraine Gate. Okay. That also, they think that's going to work. That doesn't work. Okay. And then they come out with the plandemic and, whether or not it was meant to kill people or anything. I see people, I'd still argue about whether or not it's real. I think certainly it wasn't real in the event that it wasn't a deadly killer virus that was going to be a Spanish flu or anything like that.
Agreed.
But I mean, I can tell you from my own personal experience that I was sick in a way that I've never been sick in this manner before. And I legit lost my sense of taste and smell for about 2 years. And I've never said this before, but because it was embarrassing, but everything's fine now. But like my hormone levels were like out of whack. Like my testosterone dropped so low. Like I was so depressed, and I didn't have the energy that I used to have, and like I had no joy in life. Like to basically, like I felt like sapped all the time. And I couldn't do everything that I was doing before. And because I didn't have a sense of taste or a sense of smell, it was like there's no joy in my life. And it was difficult, I mean, like it took me a while to like, get everything sorted. And, I did a whole bunch of work on stuff. And it took a while, but like that's never happened before. There's never been anything like that's made me sick in that way. I think that, I think
I know enough people who got COVID. That's real. Yeah. The same thing. And they tell the same story. My buddy Ian got it really bad. Same thing with the taste and smell. Abby and her whole family, they were like in bed, and none of them got vaccinated, but they all survived it. And same thing, my buddy Ian, he didn't get vaccinated. He got COVID. He survived it, and he got natural immunity. But I know enough people who something was released. You can't convince me otherwise. Also, too, is something to remember is the Event 201 convention was held in New York City. And when you look at one of the big first spikes of COVID that they trace back to pretty much October of 2019, it first started popping out. One of the places was New York City. And then the other one was in Washington State. But it's like, shit,
well,
did they
the
release
Wuhan
it right
games
there? Was
too.
it like a 12 monkeys deal, you know?
Yes, exactly. And the Wuhan games. I actually had a buddy whose son was in the military and went to the Wuhan games, and like all these guys came back super sick. Like, you know, and here's the other thing. People are always looking for one thing, like, what's patient zero? I don't think there was a patient zero. I think that it was, like you said, it was spread, whatever went out in multiple waves. And I also don't think that there was like a uniformity of substance that was put out. Because, I didn't get sick. And I mean, I was one of those people who was like, this shit's fake. There's like nothing there. People are just getting the cold or whatever. Maybe they're getting the flu. But like I went to an event in Missouri that Bards of War, Scott, I can't remember his last name.
Boy, vaguely remember this. Okay,
yeah. So this was in Missouri, and I went there. And, Lisa and I had gone to a couple of different events, and we were all over the place.
Like, didn't your cat die at the same time or something? Or
Simone died the day before I got kicked off of YouTube in October of 2020.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, sorry.
I still think about that. That's awful. But this was actually 2021. This was like August, and we were in the middle of trying to move to Florida, and and we came back, and I was like kind of sick for like 3 days. And I was like, I mean, I'm just, like my voice was, raspy, and I just felt kind of fatigued. And then I got better for like a day, for like 24, 36 hours. And then I woke up the next day, and it was like, I could not get out of bed. Like I can't even explain to you the lack of energy that I had. I couldn't get up. I couldn't move around. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink. Lisa was working. She was in Ohio. My daughter was afraid to be around me. So I was basically stuck inside my house. I couldn't get to the doctor. Nobody would prescribe me ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine because I lived in Michigan. And I was able to finally do it through like an online telehealth thing. And they sent me ivermectin, or they prescribed it, and I had to have like my mom go pick it up or something. But like those first couple days when I was kind of sick, I still made videos. But then I was I had never like just stopped making videos at that time. And I was literally on the couch. The only thing that I could do was lay there, like even just picking up the remote and trying to change the channel or, put on a different movie. For like a good portion of that time, I was just basically laying there staring at the wall. And I was like, okay, well, this is definitely not nothing. And I've never been sick like that before. And immediately I lost my sense of taste and smell. Like I didn't vape because I didn't want to vape. I lost like 20 pounds in like a week.
Damn, that's eye-opening. Now, I will tell you, Zach, there are better ways to lose weight in this world.
There
indeed are. And I'm going to tell you guys about one of them right now. It's way better than getting COVID. That's for damn sure. That is with Lean by Brickhouse Nutrition. Everyone's talking about weight loss injections because the results are so dramatic. They work by lowering blood sugar and reducing appetite. So what if you're looking to lose weight but not interested in painful weekly injections or COVID, especially when you hear about some of these intense side effects? That's why doctors created a weight loss supplement called Lean, and the results are remarkable. The studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to lower your blood sugar, burn fat by converting it into energy, and curb appetite, which is very important, and cravings, so you're not as hungry. But listen, lean, it's not for the casual dieter with only a few pounds to lose. The doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition created lean for frustrated dieters with 10 or more pounds to lose. We're going to get you started with 20% off and free rush shipping so you can add lean to your healthy diet and exercise plan. You take lean.com and enter altered for your discount. That's promo code altered, takelean.com. And I've been taking it and I've been seeing effects already. We took my first one live on air, so I'm about 1 week in, and I gotta say I'm very happy so far.
Yeah, Lisa asked me.
I think it was 2 weeks ago, actually.
I need to get some more because I'm almost out. I feel great, I have no problem, and so Lisa was asking me about it the other day, and just for anybody who's aware, of course, there's going to be some caffeine in it. So if you're sensitive to caffeine, just keep that in mind. But in terms of like how it makes you feel, you're energized, you're not hungry, and you're ready to go. I mean, it's perfect to take first thing in the morning after you've had a little bit of food, I think is the best way.
Yeah, the curbed appetites is the one thing I've noticed the most.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Yeah. But not to make light of with COVID, what I'm sure you were losing weight. I saw someone in the chat here said they had the COVID diet, they lost 100 pounds. Damn.
Holy jeez. Wow.
That's wild, dude. I mean, I guess it's silver lining in a weird way, but I'd rather not. I remember one of my initial digs into COVID was that I found that there was an European exotic virus kind of board that they were all hooked up with that also had the Wuhan Institute of virality. Is that whatever it's called? Virology was involved with, and PureBright Institute, which is a tie to Bill Gates. That was all kind of linked up, and they had their date that they were going to be like finished with this project for the fall of 2019. So I always thought that was a little weird because it was the whole thing was that they were collecting exotic viruses and then to do work on. So they could very easily have plucked something out of that and release it to the world. Yeah. But at very least, a high-end coronavirus was almost assuredly released.
Sure. Well, I mean, you think about I've always been fascinated with research that's being done on anything that's ancient that they find. And they have announced on a number of occasions that doing core drilling samples in like Antarctica and stuff, they have found ancient viruses or microbes that are simply not in existence today because they were flash frozen. And, and then they never talk about them ever again. Who's to say what it was? Or they could have just taken anything and adulterated it in a lab. I mean, that's nothing for them. CRISPR technology, they could totally do it.
Oh, man, dude. And that, it seemed like I assumed when they kept coming out with the Delta version and the Omicron and all this stuff, it was like, it felt like they were desperately just releasing other strains. But I assume what happened is a lot of people gained natural immunity through that because none of those other ones stuck. And the coronaviruses come out every single year of our lives. That's something a lot of people weren't aware of too. The rhinovirus gets all the accolades of the common cold, but about 15% of common colds are coronaviruses. And when I was overlaying that number at the time onto the population. One, how many people get a common cold every single year? And then I was taking 15% of that number. So 15% of those people, that it was a decent number. They would test positive for coronavirus. And then when you overlaid that onto how many people died every year, just in general, because it's a huge number. I don't want to quote it off the top of my head, but I feel like it was at very least 1 million people, but it might be more, die every single year in this country. When you were to overlay that with the amount of people who have a common cold, with 15% of that being COVID, those numbers looked scarily close to what they were reporting as the pandemic deaths. And it was just like, are they just are they, did they release a bad cold and now they're just reporting on something that is normal? This people dying who show antibodies for coronavirus.
Well, and they also stopped. Counting flu numbers. Okay, so like quite literally anybody who was sick with a seasonal, whatever it might have been, virus, cold, microbe, germ, they were just counting all of that towards it. And do you remember, Brad, the 4chan post that came out prior to the pandemic? This was in 2019.
Yeah, I could try to find it on my page.
Oh, no, I've already got it. I was gonna.
I'll
bring it up.
Yeah, I'll pull it up. Yeah.
Okay. So.
Yeah, it's so creepily on point.
Yeah. So in September 2019, this anonymous user, and looks like they're from Sweden, and of course that could be a VPN. So 9 to 10 million Americans will be killed during 2020, 2021 in some kind of major event. Don't ask me how I know this. Now, keeping in mind that whomever this person is, maybe they were just privy to the narrative that was going to be released, because obviously I don't believe that there was a mass die-off. The people died, but certainly it wasn't necessarily just from getting sick from the cold or whatever. But when you put together all of the numbers of people who died from perhaps lack of care or reduced quality of care, along with people who were simply intubated unnecessarily, maybe you get somewhere around the 9 to 10 million number. I'm not exactly sure. But replies to somebody, he says, no, I'm operative. So I don't know, maybe he's referring to the work. Do not accept any vaccines that will be released for a deadly virus in the winter of 2020. It will originate from a pharmaceutical company working with military ops in a West Coast state. It will be accurately planted in major cities, and it will cause flu-like symptoms and may be deadly to elders and babies. And as we came to learn, it was really only deadly to elderly and people with the pre-existing health conditions, not so much babies or children. The media will report it as deadly for everyone, but it's a hoax. The vaccine will be the real killer, packed with copious amounts of toxic metals, as it was. I do not know any details on the actual genetics of the virus. Sorry, but I know they have tested it multiple times already in different brand names. And I mean, this is what happened. Okay. Yeah. This is 100% what happened. And I remember this when it came out, and me personally, I was already not a person who took vaccines, so I wasn't about to allow myself to get sucked into that. And I did my best to tell everybody in the audience, this is not something that I feel comfortable telling anybody they should be taking. Of course, you got to make up your own mind, but I wouldn't take it. And and I mean, just like that was the real killer at the end of the day, because we've still got people that are dying from that. The incidence of colorectal cancer from young people, like those who didn't have heart attacks or strokes, now the true number of those people dying from rare and exotic cancers. I don't know if you've noticed this, Brad, but there was like a meme, like a type of video on YouTube that will be somebody who announces that they've got cancer, and then they'll do videos basically taking themselves through end of life, and then they make their final goodbye video, and then their channel is there forever. And
I've ran into some of those,
yeah, I have seen so many of them in the last couple of years, and young people that should not be getting cancer like this. It's not normal. And even getting cancer as an older person is not normal. Like that became normalized through the 20th century. And once they basically normalized the idea that, you get to a certain age and basically everybody's going to get cancer. Okay. That's totally normal, and thank God we've got chemotherapy and radiation, then they normalized the idea that, young people are getting cancer the same way, like you were talking before, like, oh yeah, sure. Young people have heart attacks all the time. Like what? No, they don't. That's not normal.
It's that, yeah, it's been completely normalized, and it's been happening to everyone. I mean, just last week, right, we were talking about James de Vanderbeek, and he was like you said,
My age, dude.
clean living and stuff. It's just like, I don't know how they're doing it. They're doing it, and I think a big part of it was through vaccines, and even just regular vaccines. I don't know if I've ever told you my vaccine awakening. It's kind of straightforward, but my doctor in 2018, it was actually Dr. Melise, who was a great guy. He was a great family doctor, but he had talked me into the hepatitis vaccine, and it was a double dose vaccine, and I didn't want to do it. Even then, not that I was like hardcore anti-vax, but I was just like, I don't know, I don't trust anything. And so finally, he was like, "No, you really should." My father had hepatitis B for most of all his life. He got it as a kid somehow, and so that's how he used it. I was like, "All right, fine." I go in, I get the first shot. Right, it was supposed to be 2 shots, however many days away from each other. I went into work the next day. I felt like my power had dropped half. I remember stepping over a protection bracket on the top deck and just feeling weak and being like, oh my God. Like, one, it's like, that's really fast. And two, yeah, it felt like that for a while. I don't even know if I ever felt like I fully came back, but it did something to me. And I never went back, and I never got the second shot. And that was just,
God.
It did something to my strength level. It's the only way I can describe it.
No, that's exactly how I felt too. You know, like just, you know, I didn't even take a jab, but but yes, like it was like I was sapped of all energy, and there was nothing I could do. And, you know, I love caffeine. Okay. Like, the first thing I do in the morning after I brush my teeth is I get caffeine into me, because that's how I wake up. And then throughout the day, maybe I'll have, usually I'll have several cups of coffee throughout the day. You know, I'll drink an energy drink while I'm on the air at 5 o'clock or something. But I couldn't even do that. Like, it was like nothing mattered. Nothing mattered. And somebody in the chat had asked earlier if, you know, if I felt like, you know, that was it. Was I ready to make peace? And I totally did, because I knew that I couldn't go to the hospital, because even in 2021, they were still intubating people. And my hospital had been very public about the fact that they were using remdesivir. They were injecting people with remdesivir. And I knew how deadly either of those things were. I was like, I cannot. Yes, dude. I'm so sorry. But I was like, I can't
my
go to
cousin
the hospital.
Anthony, don't bring me to the hospital. They're killing people there. And I don't even think he was like red pilled, but it was just at that point. It was like they were putting everyone on vents and they were fucking dying. It was like in the heat of COVID. And I know my cousin Anthony to this day feels bad about that. But I mean, my Uncle Vinny was in bad shape. You know, he had bad fucking whatever, like COVID, I guess. And he forced him to go to the hospital, and they put him on a vent, and he fucking died.
Oh my God. That's so horrible, dude.
It's so it's like, what do you do then? You don't want to go to the fucking hospital. And then, but it's like, typically hospital would have something that could help if they weren't just blindly following all these top-down procedures that were killing people.
Yeah. Awful stuff, dude.
So awful. Yeah. And I truly believe, dude, since COVID happened, that happened to my Uncle Vinny. My Uncle Charlie died. My Aunt Betty died. Almost certain they both got the vaccine, just the first one. My father died. He got the initial vaccine, and you know, they were older, but all of a sudden it was like everything exponentially ramped up, and then they all passed away right after each other. And I think it definitely had something to do with it. One, there you go, my Uncle Vinny, the freaking deadly protocols. And then my Uncle Charlie, my Aunt Betty, and my dad, the vaccine, I'm convinced of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, they did a great disservice to humanity.
Yeah. So Buck Wayne, as a result, libs are breeding less, so there's an upside. Yeah. I've definitely considered the same thing. But I think I think that it's bigger than that, because like birth rates are down across the board. Like, You've got, I think that there is obviously a fertility thing that came as a result of, getting the jab. But I legit think that they did something with certain strains that also, when you just got whatever it was that they were putting into the environment, that did something as well. Because like I said, I mean, like my hormone levels hit the floor. And I think that, a lot of people have been worried over the years about like shedding and stuff like that. Lisa and I, when we would go to family events and people that were there that had been jabbed, Lisa gets sick immediately. I mean, like she's got symptoms that show up immediately.
Wow.
And so I think that there is like an ongoing danger to humanity as a result of whatever it was, and in the various forms of whatever it was that they put out into the environment. And then you've got the problem of, people feeling financially insecure. Like I remember, like when I was 21 and my daughter was born, I was scared as all get out. Like I'm like thinking to myself, I'm barely scraping by right now with my life as it is. Like, how in the world am I going to be able to care for another human being? And, for people who have, in today's world where things are even more expensive and even less secure, I mean, unless they're living with their parents, then, a lot of people are in a difficult position. And, obviously I know that there's plenty of other people out there who have been able to be successful, but even like with inflation and with increased prices, there's a lot of people who are just at the point where, I don't want to have a kid until I feel like I'm financially secure. And for some people, that just never comes.
Right. 100%. I mean, they've pushed everything back in so many different ways. Most people don't even start their life until they're 22 and they're graduating college nowadays, when they were popping out babies at 18 back in our grandparents' days. So right off the bat, you had half a decade pushback. Then after that, now you got financial insecurity. People are pushing back. People are getting married later. So you're already pushed the kid boom way back, right? Half a generation in terms of someone's life. And then you're getting all this. I've had tons of friends over the years who've had to go to intravenous and had to go to these doctors that just can't get pregnant. So they were already doing stuff. I suggest the flu vaccine. I really think the flu vaccine was towards that, but also these vaccines. I think one of the biggest things was to really ramp up the infertility, and then it would make sense that you would, if you could weaponize a virus like that, make a Franken virus, that they would put that in just the initial virus that they released.
Yes, absolutely. Brad CSUS G Biochem in the chat was asking if there is a Badlands Telegram that isn't Guard. I know that we've got the Badlands Media Telegram, but I'm looking at it right now and it looks like there's no commenting that's allowed on it. So I don't believe
there is.
Yeah, I don't think there is. I think it's only the GART chats. But
the GART chats, or I know there's some groups, like I'm in the Alaskan Badlanders group, which has 3 people. And the New York, New Jersey one says probably about 100. But
yeah, so that's what I was going to say next, Geochem. If depending on where you live, there are Badlands chats for the local areas. So who do we got doing that right now? You got to go to the website and people can check it out. Yeah, there's the Spitballers chat too, but that was John's chat before Badlands existed.
You're right. The website does have something.
Okay,
I don't know exactly how to do it, if I haven't gone through that process, but I know I've seen people talk about it. And
hold on, I'm gonna actually pull it up right now. Badlands, I wrote.
While you pull that up, I'll show you guys. This is the most unsettling part of the whole pandemic. Was the dancing.
Oh yes,
and it's just like, yeah, and people talk about like it didn't happen. And it's just like, dude. I love that they put, whoever made this video put this music to it is so perfect, because this is a horror movie right here.
Bill Gates.
I didn't even notice that part. Oh, that was great. It's like they're rubbing salt in the wound. It's like they want you to forget that they also did this. You know what I mean? With the friggin' that they locked people out of nursing homes, couldn't even see their loved ones, and like as they just died alone. So
yeah,
the whole thing was insane.
Okay, so we've got Connect. Is that Be a Badlander, maybe? Yes. Okay. So here, Geochem, I'm going to put this into the chat. So you go, if you're on our website, badlandsmedia.tv, up at the top in the menu, there's an option called Connect, and then you can click on Be a Badlander. Actually, I might as well share my screen, huh? If you can pull that up for me, Brad. Okay, so there we are on the homepage. You click on Connect and then Be a Badlander. And then you've got our upcoming GARTs right here. And then you've got Badlander meetups. Connect with a local group. You can search for your state right there. So let's just go ahead and go to Florida. And there's no upcoming events at this time, but click on Connect with a local group. And then you will be taken to a page to enter your information, and that goes to our Badlands emissary, basically. And then they will reach out to you and connect you with the Telegram group and your local people. And if there's numerous in your area, like there's a couple down here in Florida. I've been to events over on the east side of the state where I live, and I've been to another event in Lakeland, closer to the west. So I live
pretty active. It seems.
Yeah. I live by Daytona, Tasharo.
While we're there, maybe we can tell people about the Badlands shop. You see how to? Maybe we could show them how to click on it from there.
Okay, so if you go to the shop at the top, you've got Badlands merch, our sponsors. So if you want to shop any of our sponsors, you can go here, and you'll be able to go directly to their website. You'll be able to look at their products. Obviously, anything that you purchase through here is going to help support the channel and keep us on the air. And then let me scroll back up. Then you've got the Badlands merch. And of course, that is the merchandise that is t-shirts and hoodies and hats and stuff for all of the various stuff. And then
is there a soft disclosure link there too?
There is a soft disclosure link, and that's right here. And that will take you to softdisclosure.com. I've been using the vanilla beard oil recently. Nice. And every day I absolutely love it. We just got another order of the vanilla citrus lotion. I'm also working on a special secret project for Annie right now, where we are testing different types of new deodorant that she's making. And
that's cool. That's what I use. I like the deodorant. Yes. Yeah.
I'm a sweater, Brad. I'm gonna tell you right now. If I'm like sitting here under the hot lights,
like a shirt, hey.
Especially in Florida during the summer, it gets hot if I don't have the air conditioning like cranked all the way up. And even sometimes when I do, I still get worked up and I'm jumping around. And so I definitely will sweat. And for years, I didn't want to use traditional antiperspirant, but it wasn't an option. And so I've been testing these new Badlands soft disclosure deodorants, and I'm not getting sweaty. I'm not getting stinky, and there's no aluminum in there. There's nothing that is going to be hazardous to my health. It's totally all natural, and I'm pretty impressed because I've tried a lot of different non-antiperspirant deodorants from a bunch of different places, and I've never thought that it was worth anything.
Yeah, I'm a hard sell on any deodorant that isn't Old Spice, and I've been using the soft disclosure, and it's been working good. So I gotta say, definitely kudos to whatever they're doing. It works because I've tried some of the alternative ones, and same thing. I just don't like them. And this one's freaking great. I think it's citrus, I want to say.
Yeah. This is vanilla tangerine. If we're talking about the, can you see this tab?
No. Oh, there we go.
Okay. All right. I forgot every time I go to a different one. So the lip balm. Lisa's a big fan of lip balm. And so she's using the lip balm every single day. But I like anything that's citrus scented, citrus flavored. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's all real good stuff. And of course, obviously, when you buy from Soft Disclosure, you're going to be supporting not only Badlands, but a number of other America First businesses as well. Yeah.
It's cool, man. And it's cool that there's so many people attached to Badlands, or even just our community in general, that are looking towards clean ingredients, clean living. It's the way we push back on a lot of this. It is Maha.
Mm-hmm. It is 100%.
And we do have some super chats.
I was actually going to pull up the boosts, see if anybody has boosted us, but it doesn't look like it.
Okay, while you look at that, our first one is from S. Boosin, and she's talking about a Badlanders meetup in Homer Glen.
Right on.
And then she says you can find it at badlandsmeetup.tv/events. I did finally get let's see, Susan, does it come in? I haven't dove into it too much yet, but I like the concept from what I've read.
Susan is very talented, and her own personal story is it's tragic yet inspiring.
What's emotional frequency techniques, or EFT, or tapping is what it's called.
And I actually used that when I was detoxing from drugs and alcohol.
There you go, dude. Yeah. It's I mean, and I've always been familiar with the concept of tapping. There was a Chinese lady I saw in the park many years ago, and we're working on the East Side Promenade in Manhattan, and we'd eat our lunch, and every day this Chinese lady was there. She's done pop, 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 and she would hit every part of her body. And I was like intrigued by it. And apparently they said people do that to like kind of wake yourselves awake. Mm-hmm. And that's what this reminded me a little bit of, at least in theories, somewhere along those same lines. But anyway, definitely, guys, you should go check this out and help support community. I also got another thing in the mail that you might like, Zach.
Aaron Russo's Mad as Hell video. I've never seen it, but that's awesome. Do you have a VHS?
I do have a VHS player. Yeah, I haven't popped it in yet.
You should think about digitizing it.
I forget what I was writing something about Aaron Russo the other day, or maybe probably about a month ago at this point. And I was like saying something. I was just curious. It wasn't even putting it in there, but I was like curious when he was doing this stuff. I was trying to link up when Rockefeller became like interested in him, because he said it was when he was running and after he had done stuff like this. So I was trying to put a timeline just in my head on that. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't find a date for this anywhere online. And I was like, and I found one video and they were like, we think it was 95 or something. So just in my quest to try and find it, to find the date, I found the version of someone selling it on eBay. I was like, I'm just going to buy this. I don't know. I've already seen it, obviously, but so Sweet. It's 1996, if anyone's wondering.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so.
Oh man.
The Patriot, the super chat says, in memory of beautiful Simone.
Oh, thank you.
Espus, and also Susan shared a interview, said this is a really good interview with Svetlana. You're gonna make Zach jealous. Yeah. I'll show it on the screen. Oh, Lara Logan did it. Okay.
Oh, cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, send that to me.
Happened? Okay.
Oh, cool. Yeah, send it to me and I'll watch it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'll definitely I'll put the link in the chat right now.
Yeah.
And then ZBM says, I believe it's one of the older vaccines causing women to be barren or losing babies. There's one vaccine that causes infertility issues in any female child that the mother has, but it's the mom who has to have gotten the vax. My mom had 4 kids, but lost 8. Yeah. My sister could only have 1 and lost 5. My sister-in-law lost 4 before she had an emergency DNC. And then she was able to have 2 after that. So many things causing infertility. Yeah, dude, it seems very artificial. Dude, my dad was 1 of 9, and my grandmother had 2 miscarriages. So basically, my grandfather looked at her and she got pregnant. So that's 11 times she was pregnant. And,
my dad was one of 7. So yeah,
1 of 7. Too.
I mean, it's Catholic families too, right?
Yeah, definitely. My mom was 1 of 5, and that was like she was like the lesser one considered in my family.
That's funny.
But,
my mom was one of 4.
There's so 4 and 7, and I got 5 and 9. That's cool.
Yeah.
I do think big families. There is something about it. It's becoming a lost thing, but I think it helps people. It helps raise people. Like,
yes,
I had my parents. They were very morally sound, and I think they raised me well. But I also had 8 billion older cousins who were not shy about telling younger cuz if they were doing something wrong or immoral or whatever. And so it was like I was raised by a clan basically growing up, and it just teaches you how to be a decent person. And I think that is being lost. And I've been seeing it a lot. Abby's 1 of 7, so she's got grew up in a big family too. And our values and just things that we just innately feel about the world and how to be a human being are very aligned. And we grew up on separate parts of the continent. The only, I'd say, common denominator that we both grew up in really big families. There's something to it, man.
There definitely is. Yeah. I mean, I think that it gives you a foundation for social cohesion, problem solving. It allows you to grow up in an environment where you value the people around you. You have a greater sense of belonging, a sense of purpose. Anytime you've got a big family, everybody needs to work together. You understand sacrifice. You appreciate what you have more. There's a lot of positives to it.
Yeah, I agree with every one of those things. And again, those are factors that are being stripped away from regular families, and then they forget about it with the fact that they've just taken the mother out of the home and made her go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a whole bunch of other stuff. But yeah, man, it would be cool to see people start creating clans again, so to say. 3 Dogs, 1 Cat says, love this show.
Thank you.
Man. Obviously, it's an awesome show. Jeb863 says, I had an uncle. My dad's brother lived in Clearwater since the late 70s. Nice. This doctor told him to stop smoking. He ran 2 5K marathons each year and died 6 months after taking shots/booster. Nita Walker. So that totally changed this guy's life.
God, that's awful.
And Susan says, thank you, Zach and Brad. Brad, check your Telegram off air. Oh yeah, I'm horrendous at checking my Telegram DMs, but I will. Now you said so, I definitely will. I don't know about you. I get spam on all my DMs, but nothing is like Telegram. I mean, the amount of friggin' spam DMs on Telegram is insane.
Yeah, I honestly don't even look at my DMs on Telegram. Like, I only use it for inter-office communication, basically, because I can't keep on top of it. I mean, there's just so much, and there are code words that scammers will use to identify each other. When if a scammer, like a Nigerian scammer, will send a message to someone, and allay is one of those words, ALAYE, and if you use the word allay in a message to one of these people, then they will believe that you're a scammer and they'll leave you alone. And they'll take you off the distribution list.
That's super valuable right there. That's
yeah, it is. Yeah. I've used it to great success on multiple occasions.
It's amazing. I'm totally rewinding this once we're done. That's the super chat. Thanks guys for hanging out tonight. That was It's funny. We had a bunch of other things we were going to talk to, but it was nice to go have like a technical relook at COVID-19. Usually people just re-out about it when it comes out now, but just getting into some of the weeds of some of that is a nice recap.
Absolutely.
And then also, maybe before we leave, I could tell people about the Rumble wallet.
Yeah, go for it.
And let's see here. Yeah, the Rumble wallet is awesome. And this is why they could cancel your accounts. They could freeze your cards. Oh, we've all lived this. Decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters more now than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you can control your money, not take a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middleman, no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators you actually believe in, you can use Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently. Yours to protect from the future, yours to protect your family. And when the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics, it's about freedom, ownership, protecting what is yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom.
Amen. We also got a couple of gold pills. EO2 Dave dropped a ship. Thank you very much for that, brother. He says, you guys are looking great. Much love. Appreciate you. And thank you very much. Do what we can. Filter Dog 1, he said, could it have been a Scud into the Pentagon? I mean, could have been a Scud, could have been a Patriot missile. I mean, there's so many different possibilities. I don't know why they would use a Scud, because Scud is, I mean, that was a foreign technology, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I always thought Patriot missile, but I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I haven't looked into like what would you differentiate, because you have two things that go on with the Pentagon is the debris, which is just tiny scraps, which could be any kind of missile, in my opinion. Some of it could have been added too, but also then you have three frames, three white blur frames.
Yeah,
freaking anything.
I mean, I always assumed Patriot missile because I assumed it was an American jet fighter that would have, flown by the Pentagon and actually shot the missile. And then
I got to look up that plane, because there is, in the freaking commission report, there's a large, it's a military plane, but I mean, it would look like a commercial jet to anyone, like probably like a 747, like a big jet.
The ghost circling plane?
Yeah, that was said, that apparently picked up Flight 77 and followed it, and then flew right over the Pentagon right after it was hit, because it had been following it, saw it hit, and then flies right over, which is what I think a lot of the eyewitnesses saw. I think they saw that, right. And then they think they saw the plane. And if you look up, that plane has the capability to fire cruise missiles.
That makes total sense.
So that fucking thing fired a cruise missile into the Pentagon. It was like almost assuredly what happened there.
Yes. And then also Judy the Lady Pug dropped a cookie for us as well. So thank you very much, Judy. Now, for those of you out there who feel like you haven't gotten enough 9/11 conversations, we are actually going to be talking about 9/11 next week.
Yes, so that should be a cool show. Where
did you by any chance happen to see Monday's show with on Baseless Conspiracies, where I talked about Kurt Sonnenfeld?
No, I didn't see that yet, but I have it saved in my bookmarks.
Okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah. Is there anything
I'd love to get your thoughts
I should look out, or maybe you could tease for our audience who haven't seen it yet either?
Well, so Kurt Sonnenfeld was one of 2 FEMA videographers that were allowed at Ground Zero after 9/11. So anybody who's read, about 9/11 or, done research, you'll probably know that, interestingly, the day before 9/11, FEMA was already set up and staged at the port closest to the World Trade Center site. And I said this the other day, but I always talk about the 3 buildings, right? You talk about Trade Center 1, 2, and then 7. But there was 7 buildings altogether that were destroyed as a result of all of that falling debris. But you'd never really talk about any of those other ones because obviously they're gone because there was a bunch of debris that fell on top of them. But 7 is notable because obvious evidence for controlled demolition. Same for 1 and 2. But building 6 is
I was gonna say, looking for what we were talking about, we won't spoil it, but last night I did find some video of what we were talking about, and I found a video of building 6 just like pouring out flames.
Okay, I haven't seen
in real
that.
time. Yeah,
all right,
so
I'm looking forward to that. So there's an interesting aspect about building 6 which comes into Kurt Sonnenfeld's story, but ultimately he was given unprecedented access. He was one of 2 people that's how I started looking for those videos of the Pentagon, because I was like, well, obviously there must have been a FEMA videographer that was at the Pentagon as well. Yes. And so but anyways, Kurt saw a whole bunch of stuff that made him believe that the official story of 9/11 was not what happened at all. And so it's really about what happened to him in the aftermath of that, how it affected his life, and what happened after that. So definitely let me know what you think. Well, you can just tell me next week when we talk about it, what you think about it.
Yeah, I definitely plan on checking it out before that. So perfect.
Yes. Very good. Okay. All right. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and send you guys on over to Devolution Power Hour.
Right on. Hey, you guys, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Peace.